Have you ever stopped and just really thought about how the world around you gets built? I'm not just talking about buildings, I mean everything. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the massive, hidden system that connects a cotton field in one country to the shirt on your back in another. Let's dive in.
Right. Let's start with something super ordinary, like this cotton shirt. Looks pretty simple, doesn't it? But its journey from a tiny seed in the ground to your closet, well, it's incredibly complex. And if you understand that journey, you basically unlock the secret to this huge unseen system that powers our entire modern world. So let's actually follow the story of that shirt, because hidden inside its journey is the fundamental recipe for how pretty much everything gets made today. It's all about something called an industrial system.
The easiest way to think about it is like a recipe. Seriously. First, you've got your inputs. These are all your ingredients. Raw materials, people to do the work, energy to power the machines. Then you have the processes. That's the cooking method, the steps you take to turn those ingredients into something totally new. And finally, you get the output, the finished dish, or in this case, the finished product, and of course, the money you make from selling it. And that right there is the heart of what we call industry. It's any economic activity that takes raw stuff and, through some process, makes it more valuable. It is literally an engine for creating value. So let's circle back to our shirt. The inputs, you've got raw cotton, the labor of many people, and all the factory costs. The processes are actually super complex. There's ginning, which separates the fibers from the seeds, then spinning that fiber into thread, weaving it into fabric, and then finally dyeing and printing it. And the output? The shirt you're wearing right now. It's a perfect, real-world example of this system in action. Okay, so we get how it all works. But why is this system so incredibly important? I mean, what does it actually do for a country and for society as a whole? Well, you can think of industries as the backbone of any modern economy. By taking raw materials and making them more valuable, they create all sorts of new jobs, which helps reduce poverty. Plus, they boost global trade, bringing in money from other countries. Really, a strong industrial base is what moves an entire nation forward. Now, industry is a huge catch-all term. Not all industries are created equal. Just like in biology, we can classify them into different groups to get a better handle on what they do. So let's break them down a little bit. One of the most straightforward ways to classify an industry is to just look at where it gets its raw materials. Simple enough, right? You've got agro-based industries using plants and animals. That's our cotton shirt example. Then there's mineral-based, using ores to make stuff like steel. Marine-based, pulling from the oceans for products like fish oil. And of course, forest-based, which uses wood to make paper. It always starts with the source material. Another way to slice it is by size. On one end of the spectrum, you have small-scale industries. Think local silk weavers or neighborhood food processors. They use less money and simpler tech. But on the other end, you have these massive, large-scale operations like car manufacturing, which need huge investments and super advanced technology to even get off the ground. And this chart here shows us the who, as in who actually owns the industry. It could be the public sector, meaning it's owned by the government. It could be the private sector, owned by individuals or companies. You can also have a joint sector, which is a partnership between government and private individuals. And finally, there's the cooperative sector, where the producers or workers themselves are the owners. Okay, so you know what kind of industry you want to build. Now comes the million-dollar question. Where in the world do you put it? Deciding on a location is without a doubt one of the most critical decisions anyone in an industry can make. And it's like solving a giant strategic puzzle. You need to be close to your raw materials, you need a skilled workforce, and you absolutely need a reliable source of power. At the same time, you need to be near your customers to sell your stuff. You need the money to get it all started, and you have to work with government policies. The perfect spot, that sweet spot, has a little bit of everything. Let's see how all these factors play out in the real world. We'll take one of the most important industries ever, steel. And we're going to look at two legendary steel cities from completely different parts of the globe. On one side, you have Jamshedpur in India, a city that was literally built from scratch around a single massive steel plant. And on the other side, you've got Pittsburgh in the USA, a city that became an industrial powerhouse because of its amazing access to transportation. So first up is Jamshedpur. Way back in 1907, the Tata Iron and Steel Company, or TISCO, was set up here. Before that, there were no other major steel plants in India. This was the blueprint. This was going to be the foundation of the nation's industrial future.
So why here, of all places? Well, it was a masterclass in strategic location. The spot, which was originally called Sakchi, had it all. It had water from 2 rivers, a major railway line for transport, and it was sitting right next to huge deposits of iron ore, coal, and manganese. On top of that, the big market of Kolkata was nearby, and the government was supportive. I mean, it ticked every single box.
All right, now let's jump across the world to Pittsburgh, America's Steel City. Its story is a bit different, but every bit as strategic.
Pittsburgh had a massive advantage. Coal was available locally. Now, the iron ore had to come all the way from Minnesota, but they had a secret weapon, the Great Lakes Waterway. It was an incredibly cheap and efficient way to ship the ore. Add in the water from 3 major rivers and fantastic routes to get the final product to market, and Pittsburgh just became this unstoppable force in steel.
So, from a simple cotton shirt all the way to a towering steel city, we've seen how these industrial systems work. Now let's bring it all back to you and your world.
Here is the biggest takeaway from all of this. Industry isn't just about factories and machines. It is the complex, deeply interconnected system of inputs, processes, and outputs that literally builds the reality we live in. The chair you're on, the screen you're looking at, it's all a product of this exact system.
So I'll leave you with a final thought. The next time you pick up your phone, or drink a cup of coffee, or just put on a piece of clothing, take a half second and ask yourself, what's the invisible system that brought this to me? What's the real story here? Thanks for tuning in.